morning everyone and welcome to the KART-DATA International Algarve here at Portimao. I'm Ken Walker. It's finals day. We're going to have 4 new champions in the Rotax Max Challenge, and we're going to have a Micromax Festival champion. It's these Micromax youngsters that are coming out first of all for their pre-final. We're not in a position to bring you a total commentary of the race. We will keep you fully informed throughout, but let me tell you that Oscar Palomo starts on pole position. Antonio Correa joins him on the front row. So Spain and Portugal on the front row. Sami Worship and Daniel Nogales row 2. Delbin Garcia and Andrea Pitts row 3, Axel Charpentier and Pablo Lazar row 4, and completing the top 10, Kirka Bordash and Ruben Silva on row 5. This will be a 9-lap race for the Micromax youngsters, coming up in less than a minute. Once again, this is a 9-lap pre-final for the Micromax youngsters. We won't be bringing you full commentary, but we will be bringing you regular updates. Oscar Palomo on pole position. And that's not a very even start, but I think the race is being allowed to continue. Oscar Paloma in the lead from pole position, followed by Sami Worship and Delbin Garcia. And once again, a big abject apology from me. I was told that Delbin was a girl's name, and I was saying that Delbin Garcia is a lady. Actually, his mum came to see me and said, "It's my boy. It is my beautiful boy. He's a man." Delbin Garcia, KART 25, is a man. Well, he's in 3rd place at the moment. Sami Worship in KART 43 is in 2nd place, and the race leader is Oscar Palomo. And all 3 of those drivers are from Spain, or Spanish from Spain. Portuguese driver Antonio Correa, a little bit slowly away from the grid. Just having a look at the back, there's some guys who've made a very, very slow start. I think it was perhaps Artur Tellez, one of them. So at the end of the opening lap, the order is as we've described it: Oscar Palomo, Sami Worship and Delbin Carthea. Daniel Nogales is 4th, Kike Bordash 5th, Antonio Gonzalez 6th, Adrian Herando 7th, Andre Pitts, the first of the Portuguese, in 8th place. The first 7 are Spanish. First Portuguese is Andre Pitts in 8th place. Santinho Mendes is 9th. He's also from Portugal, but it's another Spaniard who completes the top 10. Juan Carlos Rezoagli is in 10th place. Juan Carlos starting 22nd and has gone up to 10th in one lap. From 22nd to 10th in one lap. The change of position on top 2, no change in the first 3. Oscar Palomo 1, Sami Worship 2, Delbin Garcia 3, but Daniel Nogales dropped a couple of places to 6, so Kike Bordash is now running 4th, Adrian Herando 5th, and Daniel Nogales goes down to 6th place. 7th Antolin Gonzalez, 8th Santino Mendes, and Axel Chapontier comes into the top 10 at 9. Juan Carlos Rezoagli remains in 10th place, but Andre Pitts drops out of the top 10 and he's running in 11th place. Ruben Silva 12th. Half race distance then, this 9-lap race, and they've gone past 4.5 laps. Our race leader Oscar Palomo in a big lead now. The margin is 3 full seconds, but as you saw on that lap, Delbin Garcia moved up into 2nd place, and Sami Worship, who was running 2nd, has dropped to 4. So, as we move into the 5th lap, Oscar Palomo 1, Delbin Garcia 2, Kike Bordas 3, Sami Worship 4, Daniel Nogales 5, Antolin Gonzalez 6, Adrian Herando 7. They're all Spanish drivers. Then the first of the Portuguese lads is Santinho Mendes 8th. Juan Carlos Rezoagli goes up from 10th to 9th, and Axel Chapontier completes the top 10. 9 Spanish drivers in the top 10. The Portuguese driver is Santinho Mendes in 8th place. It is worth saying that there are far more Spanish drivers here than Portuguese, but it's the Spanish drivers holding the top positions presently. Oscar Palomo starts lap 6 and his lead is increased, well, hugely. It's virtually 5 seconds, 4.93. Sammy Worship, who was running second but fell down to 4, has now recovered to go back into second place. Adrian Arando is now third. Delvin Garcia, who was second, falls down to 4. Daniel Nogales, solid drive so far in 5th place. Antolin Gonzalez, 6th. Juan Carlos Rezoagli continues his upwards progress. He's gone from 10th to 9th to 8th and now 7th. Axel Chapontier, 8th. The only Portuguese driver in the top 10 has dropped a place. That's Santinho Mendes in kart 44. He's running 9th. And Ayrton Simmons drives into the top 10 at number 10. Race leader on his solitary circuit, not solitary circuit, but solitary drive of the circuit, because he's so far in front of the rest, coming round to complete lap 6, and Oscar Palomo begins lap 7 with a lead of 4.88 seconds. Still Sammy Worship second, Adrian Arando third. Everybody has gone through the 2/3 race distance of 6 laps, at least everybody in the top 30 who's still running. Oscar Palomo still leads, Sammy Worship still second, Adrian Arando is still third, and we have 2.5 laps remaining in the Micro Max pre-final. These youngsters 7, 8 and 9, ooh, 10-second penalty for a false start, being assessed on kart 32, which is Juan Carlos Rezoagli. So Juan Carlos Rezoagli, who sits in 6th place on the circuit, will be penalised 10 seconds for an infringement at the start. So Juan Carlos Rezoagli will lose that 6th place. Still running in 6th. Axel Chapontier is 5th now. Delvin Garcia, who was 2nd at one time, is down to 7. Ayrton Simmons 8, and then the best of the Portuguese drivers, 2 of them in the top 10 now, Santinho Mendes running 9 and Andre Pitts running 10. And those 2 Portuguese drivers will be elevated a place when the penalty on Juan Carlos Rezoagli is applied. The 3rd Portuguese driver is in 12th place, that's Gonçalo Coutinho. We're on lap 8 and the race leader has 1.5 at the most laps remaining. So the start of the final lap. Sammy Worship and Adrian Arando having that good battle. Adrian Arando and Alex Chapontier actually got that, just double check, that is how it was called, Sammy Worship and Adrian Arando. I think that was right. Yep, it was. So what about back markers in the vision of the race leader currently? A 9-lap race for these racers of tomorrow, let's call it that. Here in Portugal at Viana do Castelo we have the first ever Grand Festival of Minimax and Micromax racing. Here this year, that was at Viana do Castelo in August of last year. Here at the Grand Finals at Portimao, we've got just the Micromax youngsters coming out, and the checkered flag is being made ready. This is your race winner in shot on screen. It's Oscar Palomo. He's got his hand in the air. Number 1 is telling us, well, it was number 1 in that race, that's for sure. close finish in second and third place, with Sammy Worship getting second from Adrian Arando. Oh no, that was a back marker. That was a back marker who appeared to be finishing closely. Well, the screen's playing tricks on us, isn't it? Because Oscar Palomo is shown first with 9 laps. Sammy Worship second with 9 laps. Adrian Arando third with 8 laps. Well, that's a little anxiety, because if my screen's going to be a bit of a rogue affair, I shall struggle. I'm told Adrian Arando in kart 10 is classified third. Axel Charpentier classified fourth. Ayrton Simmons fifth. But the 1, 2, 3 in the pre-final of the Micromax, Oscar Palomo wins it. Sammy Worship in second place and Adrian Arando third. Spanish drivers all the way down to 7th place. Best of the Portuguese was Andre Pitts in 8th. Another Spaniard, Antolin Gonzalez, was 9th. And then 2 more Portuguese drivers, Santinho Mendes was 10th and Gonzalo Coutinho was 11th. Confirmation once again of that race result. Oscar Palomo wins it. Sammy Worship in second place. Adrian Arando third. Axel Charpentier came home fourth. Ayrton Simmons fifth. Daniel Nogales sixth. Delbin Garcia seventh. And the first of the Portuguese drivers, Andre Pitts, was eighth. Another Spanish driver, Antolin Gonzalez, was ninth. And the second Portuguese driver, Santinho Mendes, was 10th. So 8 Spaniards and 2 Portuguese in the top 10, but it was a Portuguese driver in 11th place, Gonzalo Coutinho. 12th place was Kiko Bordache. Well, those youngsters will come out later on this afternoon. They will come out for their final as the first race of the afternoon. Jill's going to clip. Oh, you've got it. Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah, that'll do that. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Well, there's something interesting to tell you about the first of our pre-finals. The junior pre-final. On pole position we have a Portuguese driver, Bruno Bolido. Joining him on the front row is Josh White from the UK. Josh White, only an official reserve of the meeting, and only got the call to the event last Tuesday. So Josh White from Yorkshire in the north of England. Have to say, what a story. Josh White from Ilkley in Yorkshire, 16 years of age, starts on the front row. This time last week, he didn't even know he was going to be racing here, so well done to Josh White. Well done also to Bruno Bolido, the Portuguese driver, going well throughout the event, starting on pole. Kazuto Kataka of Japan and Samu Kulmala of Finland are row 2. Marino Sato, Japan, and Alvaro Otero of Spain are row 3. James Golding, Australia. Parker Thompson of Canada. This will be an 11-lap race, Bruno Bolido of Portugal is the guy we see on pole position to the right of our television screen. Joining him on the front row, the official reserve for the class, Josh White, called to the event on Tuesday. Kazuto Kataka and Samu Kulmala, row 2. So, an 11-lap race for the juniors, the pre-final. Here we go. And a nice even break that looked at the front because Bruno Bolido has taken the lead from Kazuto Kataka, but Josh White I think in third place. Now, as I look away from the screen, the driver in the red race suit who's on the wide outside was one of our front runners and goes off. One of our front running starters. I was trying to identify who it was. I'm not going to see him come round for a while now because he's just pushing his kart back on the circuit, and there's 10 karts come to grief, or a little bit less than grief, but certainly done themselves no favours on the exit from turn 2. Well, just try and identify who that front runner was. Not able to do so. Well, it wasn't Bruno Bolido, we'll say that. Bruno Bolido, the Portuguese driver who jumped off from pole position. It wasn't Kazuto Kataka. Let's have a look and see as they come round. At the end of the opening lap of 11, Marino Sato, it was Bruno Bolido, who got himself into that tangle. Well, Berkay Besler also had the problem. Bruno Bolido, who has done so well, the Portuguese driver, having got himself in a little bit of a tangle, was one of the group that went off, not the first of the guys to go out. Just trying to have a look. Alvaro Otero of Spain. Alvaro Otero of Spain, who started on the third row of the grid and has just gone through in last place, 30 seconds. And Bruno Bolido of Portugal, who started on pole position, is out of the race, and so is Eugene Denason of South Africa. Big disappointment for the home crowd here, and Alvaro Otero, who we spotted running last in 32nd place. Oh dear, what a shame. Harry Webb, strongly fancied, was also caught up in that problem and is running 25th. Harry Webb in 25th place now. Well, Marino Sato was the leader at the end of lap 1. It's James Golding of Australia leading at the moment. In fact, Marino Sato just gone back into the lead, I'm told, as I'm looking elsewhere on my timing screen. Kazuto Kataka running 4th and Guan Yu Zhou 5th. Josh White, the meeting reserve who started on the front row, went through 6th. Well, incidents galore on the opening 3 laps. Well, opening 2.5 laps, if you will, here at Portimao. Those of you here at the circuit will know that once again it's a beautiful blue sky, sunny winter's day, or autumn day if you like. Those of you that are tuned in online, we will tell you that it's also not particularly warm, but the vast problem of the wind and the rain of a couple of days ago, that is not hurting us just at the moment. Great battle at the front. Marino Sato and James Golding trading places once again, and the Australian getting the advantage back. Kazuta Kataka and Samu Kulmala in 2nd and 3rd, also having a pretty decent dice. So, 3 drivers to lead this race so far, and we're only on lap 3. Oh, and the kart number 114, it's Marino Sato. Was that 160? Yes, it is 160. So that really good race that we were having with James Golding and Marino Sato. Marino Sato, who led at the end of the 3rd lap, before he got halfway round the 4th lap, spins a 360 off the tarmac and onto the grass, and unfortunately the Japanese will not be starting the final very near the front. It's good news for James Golding, although having said that, the guys chasing behind him are going pretty quickly. Kazuto Katako 2nd, Samu Kulmala 3rd. The absence of Marino Sato has been good news for Guan Yu Zhou, who moves up to 4th, and Stefano Van Galen to 5th. Well, just trying to get the feel of why this is happening. The circuit and the good replay here. This is Sato, well, just off screen at the moment. Oh, there was some contact, wasn't there? Little bit of contact, I think, was the cause of that spin for the Japanese driver. Let me tell you, your commentator is not an official. I'm simply the guy that tries to make sense of what I'm seeing on screen. And I'm certainly not apportioning any blame, but I think the evidence of our eyes was that there was some touching between James Golding and Marino Sato. That doesn't apportion any blame anywhere, simply reporting what I think we saw. Well, taking my eye off the ball a little bit, I've lost the passing move for the new race leader, and if I'm reading it correctly off the screen, Zach Scaldo is an amazing piece of driving, if that is right. No, it isn't. Right, really didn't want to say Zach Scalzo can't possibly be leading the race because he started so far down on row 14, and in fact the timing screen corrects itself. Thought that it was James Golding with a little bit of a margin, but Samu Kamala moving up on Katako, so it's not been too good for the Japanese drivers so far. Marino Sato having that spin when dicing for the lead, and Kazuto Kataka, who was 2nd at the fifth end of the fifth lap, going down a place to third, with the Finnish driver Samu Kulmala going second. Stefano van Galen, the Dutchman, been very impressive in the preliminaries, and is that going to be a change for the lead? Oh, so close. Well, I'm going to stay with that one. Samu Kulmala putting pressure on the Aussie. So often these drivers from Finland come from nowhere, has to be said. There's a lot of very good young drivers out of Australia right now as well. But in Northern Europe, Finland and Estonia particularly, and in this event, it's Finland, and in the CIK events, Finnish drivers coming to the fore at a very early age. Having said all of that, James Golding has held off the challenge, but the challenge is still live. Third place, Stefano van Galen, and I would say the Dutchman is, again, I have to take my eyes off the race to have a look. The quickest driver on the field is Samu Kulmala. Well, I thought Stefano, yes, 62.8 Stefano van Galen. The evidence of my eyes is that van Galen was going quickly. Having said that, is he losing third place? Yes, no, he's regaining. He's regaining third place from Kazuto Kataka when he briefly lost it. So James Golding with this narrow advantage over Samu Kulmala. Third place Stefano van Galen, fourth is Kazuto Kataka, and Ross Gunn from the United Kingdom goes past Guan Yu Zhou and gets himself up to fifth place. Guan Yu Zhou, sixth, Josh White 7, John Del Valle Tour of Spain 8, Thomas Preining of Austria 9, and another Dutchman that we've come to know well, Janau Esmeyer, is in the top 10 at number 10. Best of the Portuguese drivers is Nuno Sousa. He's running in 17th place. Marino Soto, the leader early on, down in 20th at the moment. Harry Webb still stuck downfield in 25th, one of the very heavily fancied drivers coming into the event. Well, Samu Kulmala continuing to put the pressure on James Golding. This is lap 9 of an 11-lap junior pre-final. I have to say that Samu Kulmala, who looks very good in the first two turns of the circuit, just loses ground on the Australian when we climb up the hill, and this time lost ground the most markedly of all, but then dropping back down, closing the gap. But James Golding, the Aussie, going well so far. Well, I should imagine my mate Scott Auld, who's doing the dedicated commentary for the Australians, is getting pretty excited in his race call on this one, with James Golding on lap 9 leading. Be good for Scotty if he can call home an Aussie for the first race victory of the day. Very different, contrasting styles. James Golding hunches forward and dips his head. Samu Kulmala leaning back to try to avoid the wind resistance. Kazuto Kataka and Stefano van Galen have traded places in third and fourth again. That's at least the third time those guys have done so. Ross Gunn still running fifth, Guan Yu Zhou still sixth, Janau Esmeyer up from 10th to 7th, John Del Valle Tour of Spain 8, Thomas Preining 9, and front row starter Josh White drops down to 10th, but is still in the top 10. Ross Gunn moving up to third place. Ross Gunn coming through a little bit, not exactly unnoticed, but the front two have got their own battle, but that's been a tremendous scrap from third to 10th, and pretty much whatever happens in the mix will do. So, coming round to take the start of the last lap, if there is such an expression. Really meant to see the last lap board was what I was trying to say. James Golding, Samu Kulmala 1 and 2. Ross Gunn in third place. I wouldn't say safe in third place, but given that there's only 3/4 of a lap remaining, Ross Gunn's couple of kart lengths between himself and Kazuto Kataka may well be sufficient at this stage. Stefano van Galen still running fifth. Well, you know that I don't like, those of you that hear me a lot, and commiserations if you do hear me a lot, I often talk about the commentator's curse, things that I don't want to say, just in case. But James Golding, with less than a quarter of a lap remaining, has the race to lose from here. It looks as if the Aussie's coming home first. Onto the home straight for the 11th and final time. Our first race winner in the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals pre-final is James Golding of Australia. Samu Kulmala, Finland second. Rosgun, United Kingdom third. Kazuto Kataka, Japan fourth. Stefano van Galen, Holland fifth. Jano Esmair, another Dutchman, sixth. Guan Yu Zhou of China seventh. Thomas Preining, Austria eighth. John Del Valiteur of Spain 9, and a German driver, Christopher Dreispring, completing the top 10 at number 10. The disappointments, well, they're pretty obvious. The guy who was leading the race at one stage, Marino Sato, dropping right out of the reckoning. Harry Webb's 23rd, Marino Sato was 22nd, behind him was Harry Webb 23rd, and in 26th place Alvaro Otero, all drivers who caught up in that early mayhem. Eugene Denason of South Africa 29th, another one who was caught in that problem. But worst of all, the local driver Bruno Borlido, he didn't complete a lap. He started the pre-final in pole position, the Portuguese driver. He will start the final in last place. Well, let's give you the call-out of the grid for the next race, which is the DD2 Masters pre-final. Just before we do, going to say a happy birthday to my good friend Mick Chittenden in Kent in the United Kingdom. Happy birthday, Mick. And also Chris, his partner. Hope that you're holding on to good health, Chris. Happy birthday, Mick. Jesus Santander Perez and Henry Martin complete the top 20 on row 10. Well, apologies for the breaking commentary that we've had. We are now up and running, I think. DD2 Masters are on lap 5 of a 14-lap pre-final, and David Griffiths from the United Kingdom leads Scott Campbell and Cristiano Magado. They go through to start lap 6. Martin Pearce in 4th place, beginning to put a bit of pressure on Cristiano Magado, but likewise Mikko Sala of Finland putting pressure on Martin Pearce. Florent Lambert running 6 and Guy Pansard running 7. Coming up towards the infield hairpin adjacent to the start-finish line. David Griffiths' lead was 0.32 of a second. I have to say, David Griffiths, I've actually used this word to him, something of a revelation. I've seen David Griffiths' first race 7 or 8 years ago, and he's always been fairly useful. But for somebody to be out of kart racing and then racing with this quality of field, as well as he's going presently, nothing short of a revelation. He leads as we come round to start lap 7. Martin Pearce, the driver, looking most likely to make a forward move in those top 4. The top 4 having broken away a little. Top 4 having broken away from 5th place driver Mikko Sala, 6th place Florent Lambert, but Martin Pearce in 4th place. Well, having said that Martin Pearce was getting close to Chris Magado, he's just dropped off a little, and Chris Magado now getting a lot closer to Scott Campbell. Nobody in a position to make a move at the moment. That front running 4 are about 10 metres in front of the next 4, which is Mikko Sala 5th, Florent Lambert 6th, Guy Pansard 7, and Gonzalo Gaivo 8. There's then another gap to Dennis Kroos running 9th and Igor Mukin completing the top 10. And that pressure by Cristiano Magado on Scott Campbell is told, and Cristiano Magado moves into 2nd place as we start lap 8. David Griffiths has half a second on the field, but he's now got Cristiano Magado chasing him down as we in the early stages of lap 8. So in a 14-lap pre-final, we've moved into the second half of the race. 7 laps gone, just under 7 remaining. A driving standards flag being shown, and that was to kart number 462. 462, who had a driving standards flag shown, was Carlos Medina of Mexico. He's down in 28th place, so without wanting to be disrespectful, it's not really making a lot of impact up the front. Mickey Irwin, the driver, who doesn't have the use of his legs, he's in 24th place of the 34 starters. Chris Adams failed to complete a lap, and so did Moritz Nopjes. Chris Adams, one of 4 drivers looking for a 3rd Rotax World Challenge title, but not gone so well there. David Griffiths having conceded the lead to Cristiano Magado as I was looking a little bit further down the screen. Apologies for that, simply a case of you can't see everything. I'm trying to look at the circuit, I'm trying to look at the television screen, I'm trying to look at the timing screen to do my best for you, to bring you the information you need to know. And what you can see for your eyes presently is that Chris Magado has not just taken the lead off David Griffiths, but has pulled a couple of kart lengths clear of him. Again, as I regularly say in commentary, it always makes a very strong impression on me. Cristiano Magado has a very exaggerated head and upper body movement. See him at the turns. It's almost like a motorcycle sidecar passenger. At times when he inclines over to the left, inclines over to the right. Cristiano Magado's lead over David Griffiths is already up to 0.4 of a second. Martin Pearce in 3rd place is well clear of Scott Campbell 4th. Florent Lambert has gained a place up to 5th. He must have gone past Dennis... No, it wasn't Dennis Kroos. He's gone past Igor Mukin, was it? Certainly Scott Campbell 4th place, Florent Lambert 5th. We're on lap 10, and Cristiano Magado again demonstrating that exaggerated upper body movement. And there the head inclining way over to the right. Our television picture's picking that up. So Cristiano Magardo's lead, 0.4 of a second as I look out of the window. David Griffiths is just a little bit more detached from Chris Magardo, and Martin Pearce, who I suggested was relatively, shall we say, lonely in third place, is actually getting a bit closer to David Griffiths. Although, having said that, Griffiths has suddenly found a surge of speed, makes an attempted pass on Chris Magardo, not able to execute it, but all of a sudden, Cristiano Magardo's comfortable lead at the front of this one is a lead under threat, and it's under threat by the form, and as I speak, David Griffiths is a little bit slowly out of that hairpin, and there's suddenly 5 lengths between himself and Chris Magardo, and Martin Pearce in third place for Ireland, suddenly threatening to take David Griffiths second place. Well, such are the vagaries of kart racing. All of a sudden, David Griffiths looked a real likely challenge to regain his lead. Right now, his prime requisite is to hold off the pressure from Martin Pearce behind him in third place. This is lap 11, the end of. So lap 12 begins, 3 to go, 3 to go. Chris Magardo now looking very safe, but Martin Pearce looking very menacing. Martin Pearce looking very menacing in third place. David Griffiths under pressure, although I have to say, David Griffiths really not looking in any way ragged. I keep making the point that he's only an occasional racer these days. Chris Magardo, after winning his first Rotax World title, went on to race Formula Ford successfully, Formula 3. So, and a big wide sweep by David Griffiths there, lost him a lot of speed, loses space on Chris Magardo, and invites Martin Pearce to get a little bit closer. The margin between them was half a second at the end of lap 11. It's at least half a second now, I would suggest. The good news for David Griffiths is that whilst Cristiano Magardo is well in front, Martin Pearce, who had been particularly close, has now dropped back something like about 10 kart lengths between all of them, 1, 2 and 3. But a good dice for 4th, 5th and 6th, because Scotty Campbell, Florent Lambert and Gonzalo Gaivo, all of them disputing those positions 4, 5 and 6. And I think that Florent Lambert was the guy who was involved in that attempted pass that we saw on screen moments ago. This is lap 13 of a 14-lap DD2 Masters pre-final, so we're late in the race. Cristiano Magardo continuing to hold the advantage. David Griffiths pretty much seen off the challenge of Martin Pearce, I would think, but behind them a good dice. Scott Campbell it is 4th, Gonzalo Gaivo of Portugal is 6th, and it's Florent Lambert in between them. So last lap, 1 to go. Magardo's lead is up to 1.2 seconds. And that 3rd, 4th and 5th dice shakes down with Florent Lambert going past. I think that was Gonzalo Gaivo. Scott Campbell getting back the advantage in that second group of 3. Well, the first group of 3 are not really a group, they're well spread out, but that second group of 3 definitely still dicing. There's less than about half a lap remaining. Scott Campbell 4th, Florent Lambert 5th, Gonzalo Gaivo 6th, putting pressure on the Brit. When we say the Brit, Florent Lambert, born in mainland France, lived in the Ivory Coast, or is it on the Ivory Coast? And now a resident of Britain of over 20 years. But let's do justice to the 3 in front of them, because coming round to take the final turn on the 14th lap, the victory goes to Cristiano Magardo. In second place it's Dave Griffiths, 3rd is Martin Pearce, 4th is Scott Campbell, 5th is Florent Lambert, 6th is Gonzalo Gaivo, 7th Dennis Kroos, 8th Igor Mukin, 9th Guy Pansar, and completing the top 10, it's Alan Rudolph. Once again, commiserations to Chris Adams who never completed a lap, nor did Moritz Nopiers. Piers Lehane will start the senior pre-final on pole position, looking for an Australian double this morning following James Golding's race in juniors. Ferenc Kankshaw will join Piers on the front row. Charlie Eastwood and Harrison Scott are row 2, Ukyo Sasahara and Ed Brand row 3, Ollie Hodgson and Jesse Lazar row 4, Philip Morin and Arvo Talvar complete the top 10 on row 5. Well, not the sweetest of starts, but Piers Lehane getting in front of Charlie Eastwood, followed by Ferenc Kankshaw. The opening 2 turns sees the Australian Piers Lehane in front of the Irishman Charlie Eastwood, in front of the Hungarian or Austro-Hungarian. He was based in Austria for 3 seasons with Team VPD, but racing on a Hungarian licence now. Ferenc Kankshaw started on the off-pole position, moved over at an early stage into 3rd place, kart number 279. The front 3 have pulled away a chunk. That looks like Harrison Scott in 4th place, but wouldn't say that with total certainty. Edward Brand just behind, Jesse Lazar also featuring there, so a decent start for those guys from the outside row. As we head round to the penultimate turn on the opening lap, Piers Lehane holding the early advantage. Ukyo Sasahara had gone forward, which was a place change I hadn't spotted, and in fact he takes the lead. Ukyo Sasahara takes the lead early on the 2nd lap. Piers Lehane having surrendered the lead after leading on the opening lap from pole position. Ukyo Sasahara, who earlier this morning I regarded, regarded is not really an incorrect term, but I was offering the view that Ukyo Sasahara, if not the best of these drivers in seniors, is one of the best battlers, if you see what I mean. The difference being that Ukyo Sasahara, when the chips are down, can really dig deep. Climbing up the hill now on the long drag, up towards the penultimate turn once again. Sasahara put a couple of lengths, if not 3, between himself and Piers Lehane. 3rd place, still Ferenc Kankshaw, Charlie Eastwood in 4th place. And Piers Lehane has retaken the lead. Piers Lehane has regained the lead on the 2nd turn of the 3rd lap. So Piers Lehane, I was volunteering that Ukyo Sasahara has good battling qualities. Well, just about every Australian driver you ever see, the same can be said of, and it can certainly be said of Piers Lehane. But Sasahara, well, just backing off momentarily there as we came to the infield hairpin, but Sasahara applying the pressure once again. Just going briefly out of my view, looking at the television screen. Ukyo Sasahara still tracking race leader Piers Lehane, and Ferenc Kankshaw taking closer order, and these 3 pulling a little bit clear now of Charlie Eastwood and Harrison Scott. This is the start of lap 4, and Piers Lehane still feeling the heat from 2nd place driver Ukyo Sasahara. Ukyo Sasahara, who started on the inside of row 3, worked his way forward. One of my early calls of Charlie Eastwood in 2nd place may actually have been Ukyo Sasahara. Charlie racing in a different race suit today, running in 5th place presently because Harrison Scott has gone past him, hasn't he? But Ukyo Sasahara continuing to apply the pressure on Piers Lehane. Ferenc Kankshaw, the 3rd of our front drivers as the television screen picks them up. Climbing up the hill, you can see the undulations of this circuit here at Portimao. Very much a climbing and a dropping circuit. Piers Lehane to the right of your screen, leading as we swing round onto the home straight for the 4th time. Piers Lehane, and there goes a move for the lead, and Ukyo Sasahara executes his passing move. Can he make it stick? He can, but Piers Lehane coming strongly back. But Ukyo Sasahara at the start of lap 5 getting back in front. A very, very good race in the senior pre-final, being served up by the Japanese driver based in Austria and the Australian driver based in, well, Australia. 3rd place Ferenc Kanksar, 4th place Harrison Scott, and 5th place Charlie Eastwood, getting closer to these guys. What was a front-running 3 is now a front-running 5 on lap 5. Ukyo Sasahara leads, Piers Lehane is 2nd, Ferenc Kanksar is 3rd, Harrison Scott 4th, Charlie Eastwood 5th. And positioning himself for a move is Piers Lehane, and there's a little nod there. I think that Charlie Eastwood said to Piers Lehane, yes, you've got me, go through, and Piers Lehane knew then that Ukyo Sasahara was not going to chop across him and do anything silly. So well done, guys. This is good front-running racing by you two. But of course it does mean that Ferenc Kanksar 3, Harrison Scott 4 and Charlie Eastwood 5 have taken much closer order. And in fact Harrison Scott and Charlie Harrison's going past Ferenc Kanksar, I think. Looking a little bit further down, Ed Brand running 6, Ollie Hodgson 7, Peter Betzel 8, Francisco Mora 9 and Joseph Mawson completing the top 10. Just outside the top 10, Marco Di Leo of Canada and Daniel Formal, the USA champion. Alexandra Finkelstein, who had to negotiate the last chance race, running in 16th place at the moment. Sean Babington, who was last of the qualifiers at one stage, eventually he finished in 5th place of 6 up to 23rd place. We're on lap 7 of the senior pre-final. Piers Lehane, Ukyo Sasahara, the 1 and 2 still, Harrison Scott in closer order in 3rd. Charlie Eastwood 4, Ferenc Kanksar 5, Ed Brand 6, Ollie Hodgson 7, Peter Betzel 8, but newly into the top 10 now is Portuguese driver Francisco Mora. Francisco Mora of Portugal driving into the top 10 at number 9. Marco Di Leo of Canada drives into the top 10 at number 10, and Joseph Mawson of Australia drops out of the top 10 to 11th place. So, into the second half of the race, 7 laps gone, just under 7 laps remaining. Piers Lehane continuing to hold this narrow lead, and as I'm taking my eye off the ball, that's a trade of places for 2nd and 3rd. Harrison Scott getting a bite of the action. Piers Lehane just got a little bit of a cushion as they move down the hill, down one of the hills, and then begin the climb. This isn't the major climb, but we're into the really steep part of the long drag now. Sweeping round right to come back onto the home straight for the 8th time of 14, and the lead is probably as big as it's been at any stage. Piers Lehane 0.29 of a second in front of Harrison Scott 2 and Ukyo Sasahara 3. Charlie Eastwood is still 4th in front of Ferenc Kanksar 5th, Ed Brand still 6, Ollie Hodgson still 7, Peter Betzel still 8, Francisco Mora still 9, but Joseph Mawson has driven back into the top 10, having dropped a place to 11. Alexander Zenkin of Russia now knocking on the door of the top 10. He's gone past Daniel Formal of USA and Marco Di Leo of Canada. And Alexandra Finkelstein, who I mentioned on the previous lap, gains another place up to 14th. Sean Babington is now in the top 20 at 20th place. This is lap 9. Well, Piers Lehane had got 0.29 of a second on Harrison Scott. I know we're only talking mini fractions, but that looks to me as if Harrison Scott could be a shade closer. Yes, he is. 0.21. Harrison Scott has just done 61.10, which is the fastest lap of the race by anybody. Piers Lehane's fastest lap is 61.27. So, with 5 laps to go, including the one that they're on, Harrison Scott is going quicker than Piers Lehane, but he's not only got to close that gap, he's got to find a way past the Aussie. Well, when I talk about closing the gap, I think we can pretty much say that Harrison Scott has closed the gap. Coming into screen, up the hill now. Harrison Scott, to use that slightly silly expression, but I do use it a fair bit, climbing all over Piers Lehane a moment ago, although Piers Lehane's found about half a length to give himself a little bit of a breather. Those of you tuned online can see that although the television pictures do sometimes foreshorten the distance, well, having said what I've said, now Harrison Scott, having executed the move, it's Piers Lehane fighting back. Ukyo Sasahara still third. Charlie Eastwood still fourth. Ferenc Kanksar fifth. Coming up the hill, Harrison Scott under the same degree of pressure from Piers Lehane as young Harrison was putting the Aussie under a lap ago. Just on my blind spot, but regaining position. I'm looking at the television pictures. Harrison Scott still holding the advantage, and according to the television pictures, really increasing, although when I look out on the circuit proper, it doesn't look anything like as close. Harrison Scott's lead 0.4 of a second, so Piers Lehane shouldn't really look as close as he does. Harrison Scott, I've said of Harrison Scott previously this year, and I will say it again, once Harrison Scott hits the front, I know it's a lot easier from the front with empty tarmac in front of you, but Harrison Scott drives very, very sweetly and smoothly at the front. Maybe the one little flaw in his game, sometimes when it's a little bit hectic and, shall we say, Ukyo Sasahara style racing, Harrison is perhaps not quite as smooth then. But right now, Piers Lehane must not let him get away, because the need to apply pressure to Harrison Scott is 7/10 of the battle of getting past him. But Harrison Scott increases the lead. It's 0.46 of a second. Piers Lehane coming under pressure from Sasahara, and Sasahara goes past. Sasahara goes into second place, and Eastwood also putting pressure on the Australian now. Now it's a different ball game for the Aussie. He's got to do something from here. This is lap 13 of 14. He doesn't want to finish any further down. I guess a third place finish for Piers Lehane to give him an inside row 2 start would be okay. Ukyo Sasahara, having put that second place move onto Piers Lehane, is feeling happy. Piers Lehane in third place would start the final, but if Charlie Eastwood was to wriggle past, and I think he has, Charlie Eastwood has wriggled past, so it's gone wrong for Piers Lehane here, because now it's Charlie Eastwood who would start on the inside of the second row from third position, and Piers Lehane got some remedial work to do. Already it looks to me as if Charlie Eastwood is trying to close the door rather than pass the guys in front. It's still a good battle in front. Harrison Scott hasn't won it yet, and Ukyo Sasahara hasn't lost it yet. Charlie Eastwood's in third place, but Piers Lehane hasn't surrendered his bid for third place. And just in case anything happens between any of those up front, Ferenc Kanksar is looking very handily placed in 5th. Well, Harrison Scott and Ukyo Sasahara giving us a good scrap at the front. And there goes the move. Fairly sure that move was executed. It is on the blind spot. Ukyo Sasahara getting the advantage. And Harrison Scott now under pressure from Charlie Eastwood. This is the last lap. I'm hearing that the officials are reviewing an incident late in the race, but there's the checkered flag, and the race victory goes to Ukyo Sasahara. Harrison Scott was 2nd, Charlie Eastwood 3rd, Piers Lehane will be disappointed to be 4th, Ferenc Kanksar 5th, Ollie Hodgson 6th, Edward Brand 7th, Alexander Zenkin 8th, Peter Betzel 9, and via the last chance qualifier yesterday, Alex Finkelstein gets a top 10 finish in the pre-final. Confirmation of the race result of the senior pre-final. It's a victory for the Japanese former double Rotax champion Ukyo Sasahara from Japan. 2nd place, Ireland's Charlie Eastwood. 3rd place, Australia's Piers Lehane, although that was not how I saw it crossing the line. 4th place, Ferenc Kanksar. 5th place, Ollie Hodgson. 6th, Harrison Scott. So it would appear that Harrison Scott has been assessed a penalty perhaps. 7th, Ed Brand. 8th, Alex Zenkin. 9th, Peter Betzel. 10th, Alexandra Finkelstein. Just outside the top 10, Arvo Talvar of Estonia and our Portuguese driver, Francisco Mora.
Next pre-final is the DB2 pre-final, and Canada's Ben Cook will start this one on pole position, joined on the front row by Austrian Simon Vargas.
Andre Huber of Germany is on row 8 with Australian Kyle Ensby. Leon de Vischer of Netherlands shares row 9 with Kazim Vasilauskas of Lithuania, and the top 20 sees Lucas Oryk, United Kingdom, and Miika Laiho of Finland. Jari Huttinen and Andreas Backman row 11, Sean Slavin and Luke Candle row 12, Jason Pringle and Konstantin Skalko row 13, Zach Richard Robichon and Ricardo Laito row 14, Tom Dealison and brother Eduardo Laito on row 15, Patrick Pearce and Daniel Vajas row 16, Sebastian Bertrand and Fritz Liesman completing the grid on row 17. A 14-lap DD2 pre-final coming up next from here at Portimao. Hope you're enjoying yourselves here at Portimao. Those of you that have tuned in online, thank you for your interest. Ben Cooper is on pole position and Simon Wagner joins him on the front row. Zendarua and Nick Latifi are row 2. Enrique Baptista and Kevin Ludi, row 3. The All-American row 4 is Cody Hodgson, the NASCAR driver, and Joey Wimsett. Harold Skokaklis and Matthias Detige, row 5. Well, that's not a very even start, but it looks like a legitimate start, and Ben Cooper, no, it's an illegitimate start. It is a restart called, and there's contact at the back of the grid, isn't there? And 4 drivers at the back of the grid getting themselves in some form of contact, and a couple of them looking at damage on their karts. That is a big misfortune. The body language of that driver at the top of your screen says it all. It's 350, so that's Sean Slavin of Scotland. Well, the Scotsman has been very unlucky before today in this event, and how unlucky is that to get a collision before you reach the start line, and Sean Slavin will not make the restart, and when he starts the final, is going to be last. Very, very unlucky for the Scotsman. You can see him in the centre of the circuit just lying down, and you can only imagine what his thoughts are now. Well, our television screen picturing the distraught figure, that is Sean Slavin. I don't think he's on the floor because he's hurt. In fact, I'm convinced he's not hurt, but he really, really, really is feeling the disappointment here. But life goes on, and Ben Cooper and Simon Wagner will bring the guys round for a second attempt to start this DD2 final. Ben Cooper on your left, Simon Wagner on the right, and a much better start that. Ben Cooper leads. In second place, that's Zenderuv. I think that Simon Wagner has wriggled in into third place. It's, no, that's Nicholas Latifi third, and Simon Wagner, I think, running fourth. But certainly Ben Cooper from Zenderuv in the early stages of the race. Ben Cooper, one of 4 drivers coming here to Portimao as a double champion, looking for a 3-timer. Zenderuv in second place, Nicholas Latifi in third place. Nicholas Latifi, who I said in commentary yesterday, one of his most recent motorsport results, came second at Monza in a Formula 3 race. Oh, and one of our top half dozen going very wide at the first of the serpentine turns and losing a couple of places as a result, and we've lost, I think, kart 351, is it, or is that 315? Sebastian Bertrand. Ben Cooper, Zenderuv, Nicholas Latifi, Simon Wagner were the order that I called the first 4. Cody Hodgson runs 5th, Kevin Ludi 6th, Joey Wimsett 7, Enrique Baptista 8, Matthias Detige 9, and Roy Backer completing the top 10. And the drivers that we lost were Tom Dealison hasn't come round, and Daniel Vacas hasn't come round, and Sean Slavin didn't start. Well, the Canadian colours of Ben Cooper, so used to calling his races where I look at the top of his helmet and see a Union flag. Not the case this time. Canada running 1 and 3. Zenderuv splitting the Canadians. The Belgian in second place. And Nicholas Latifi bidding to go second, and he goes second. Nicholas Latifi goes second, and the Canadians are now running 1 and 2. Ben Cooper 1. Nicholas Latifi 2. Zenderuv trying to get second place back, and he's got it. And going through with him is Simon Wagner, and Nicholas Latifi, having gone from third to second, suddenly finds himself 6th. So Nick Latifi has had a very eventful 20 seconds, and the net gain and loss is, well, a biggish loss. Ben Cooper's lead is huge now in relative terms. This is only 2 1/4 laps into the race, and Ben Cooper's got over half a second lead, something like about 15 kart lengths. And Zenderuv makes a mistake, and that's Simon Wagner going through into second. Zenderuv a little bit caught in no man's land, and the gap that emerged, well, that's all Simon Wagner wanted. He drove through, he's now running second. Ben Cooper 1, Simon Wagner 2, Zenderuv 3, Cody Hodgson 4. And that goes, I think that was Nick Latifi gaining another place. And Zenderuv is back into second place. So Simon Wagner did what Nick Latifi did previously, gain a place and then lost more. Ben Cooper in the lead. Zenderuv quite clearly in second place with a margin. Simon Wagner running third. Just looking a little bit further down, the Lightau brothers are running side by side. They're 21st and 22nd on the track. Well, not quite side by side anymore, but very close proximity. The big surprises and disappointments, Patrick Pearce right down in 28th place. hasn't been going so well in this event. Tiago Ribeiro of Portugal in 30th place, that's a disappointment. But at the sharp end, Ben Cooper leading the race. The margin in favour of Ben Cooper, about 1.4 seconds. It is a big lead. Jill telling me that Cody Hodgson has gained a place, I think. And in fact, let's have a count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that looks like Nicholas Latifi. Way down in 9th, 8th place. Lucas Orrick driving up into the top 10 is a good drive. But I haven't been able to crack that one between Simon Wagner and Cody Hodgson. Let's wait until they come into a little bit more identifiable spot. To state the obvious, your race leader at the end of lap 5, Ben Cooper. In 2nd place, Zender Ruver. In 3rd place, Simon Wagner. 4th, Kevin Ludi. It was a misread on Kevin Ludi and Matthias de Tige. Kevin Ludi of Switzerland 4th, Matthias de Tige 5th, and it was Cody Hodgson correctly called as dropping the place, having gone back to 6th. Roy Backer 7, Mika Laiho 8, Joey Wimsett makes it 2 Americans in the top 9, and Nicholas Latifi just on the edge of the top 10 at number 10. Well, this is lap 6 of a 14-lap senior pre-final. Ben Cooper not under any threat from Zender Ruver. Zender Ruver's lead over Simon Wagner in 2nd place is much less, but he's not under any threat from Simon. Simon got a little bit of a margin before Kevin Ludi, but then it gets a lot tighter, and Kevin Ludi's position is under threat and he's lost it. Oh no, Ludi gaining it back. It was Ludi gaining the position back. So Ludi now into 3rd, and Simon Wagner and Kevin Ludi were the guys a couple of laps ago that had done the trade, and Kevin Ludi returns the compliment. Matthias de Tige still running 5th, Cody Hodgson still running 6th. Heading towards the half race distance. It all looks very easy for Ben Cooper. Ben Cooper, who started his career at Buckmore Park in Kent in England in 4-stroke arrive and drive races. Came into the Rotax game and had British success, European success in the Rotax Euro Challenge and world success in the Grand Finals. Then went to CIK and WSK Racing as an energy driver, works driver. Now based in Montreal, or is it Toronto? I'm not sure. Near the Mont Tremblant track anyway. Near Tremblant. Well, it's sad to see Lucas Orrick trailing round on his own at the back, a driver who might well have had something to say at the sharper end of these races, but something's happened to the Englishman to keep him all 3/4 of a lap behind the others. In fact, I think he's driven off the circuit and into Parc Fermé. Into the 2nd half of the race, because 7 laps have gone of the 14, and this is lap 8. Ben Cooper's lead come down a little to 1.1 from 1.3. So if we want to be a little bit pedantic, Zender Ruver reeling in Ben Cooper, but it doesn't look like that. Kevin Ludi has lost a place to Cody Hodgson, has he? No, he hasn't. Kevin Ludi under pressure from Cody Hodgson, wearing very similar race suits. I did think that was Cody Hodgson who'd moved up to 3rd, but Jill, who's a lot sharper than myself on these things, telling me that Cody Hodgson is the guy immediately behind Kevin Ludi, and immediately behind him it's going to be Matthias de Tige of Belgium, making it 2 Belgians in the top 5. Good showing from Zender Ruver. Matthias de Tige, incidentally, having a very, very heavy collision in non-qualifying practice. Hurt his leg really quite badly, damaged the kart badly. That was a collision with Tom Holland, Tom Holland never got himself sorted after that, but Matthias de Tige has fought back well. Ben Cooper dips his head and sets off on lap 10 with a lead of 0.9 of a second over Zenderuva. Well, Kevin Ludi, Cody Hodgson and Matthias de Tige are having a stunning drive for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Kevin Ludi still holding the advantage. Our television pictures show you here. This is Kevin Ludi, Cody Hodgson and Matthias de Tige. And congratulations to Andreas Holzmeimer, who's picking the best of the racing for you. Ben Cooper clear in front, Zenderuva getting closer, but 2 full seconds to this fabulous dice. There you see them again. It's still Kevin Ludi in the light race suit from Cody Hodgson in the light race suit and Matthias de Tige in the darker race suit. And there's people close to them behind. Mika Laiho running 6, Kyle Ensby running 7. Simon Wagner down in 9th place. So the casualty from the front runners in the last few laps has been Simon Wagner. We're on lap 11. 4 laps remaining, including the one that they're on. This again on screen is the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. There is Ben Cooper, and you can see that Zenderuva is getting a lot closer to Ben Cooper. The good news for Zenderuva is he's getting closer every lap. The bad news is there's only 3 laps remaining after this one. Ben Cooper, Zenderuva and Kevin Ludi remain the 1, 2 and 3. Cody Hodgson from the United States of America still in 4th place. Matthias de Tige 5th now. Ben Cooper of Canada still in the lead, but Zenderuva of Belgium getting closer and closer. And Matthias de Tige trying to go past Cody Hodgson, can't. Cody Hodgson trying to get past Kevin Ludi and can't. And that just leaves the front 2 just further and further in front. But Zenderuva, if he's got any legs to catch Ben Cooper, he's got no anxiety behind him, because this fabulous race for 3rd, 4th and 5th and 6th for that matter is about 100 metres behind him. It's still Kevin Ludi holding on to that advantage, and it's still Ben Cooper holding off the challenge of Zenderuva. Well, if Ben Cooper was the hero of the first 7 or 8 laps of this race, and he was, Zenderuva's the hero of the most recent laps, coming up to the end of lap 12 of 14. Ben Cooper dips his head in that characteristic way, 0.2 of a second between himself and there is a change at last. Kevin Ludi has been eased past by Cody Hodgson, and Matthias de Tige went with him, and Kevin Ludi, who worked so hard to hold on to that 3rd place, loses 2 places. Cody Hodgson from the west coast of the United States now running 3rd. Matthias de Tige from Belgium makes it 2 Belgian drivers in the top 4. I look back on track. I mustn't look at the timing screen for too long, because Zenderuva is closer still. It's 0.22 of a second when I called it last between Ben Cooper and Zenderuva. Well, can Zenderuva make a challenge? Oh, he was a little bit slower out of that turn there than Ben Cooper, and lost half a kart length as a result of it. So, last lap, 1 to go, and I have to say, having built up this battle between Ben Cooper and Zenderuva, that small mistake by Zenderuva, I think has given Ben Cooper a sufficient cushion to make sure that he's not going to lose this pre-final. What's in a pre-final? Well, only starting positions in the final, but where would you rather start the final? On pole or on the outside of the front row? Zenderuva still closing on Ben Cooper, but there's less than half a lap. We'll stay with those 2. I have to move to the television screen, which is just picking them up now. Ben Cooper holding off the challenge as we begin to climb the hill for the 14th and final time. The Belgian is getting closer to the Canadian, but I don't think he's going to find a way past. Just 2 turns remaining. This is onto the home straight. The checkered flag's in sight. And Ben Cooper wins it by 1.5 lengths from Zenderuva. Zenderuva sweeps past Ben Cooper on the first turn. But hey, Zen, it's 150 metres too late because Ben Cooper was in the lead at the end of the race when the checkered flag came. A great senior pre-final, won by Canada's Ben Cooper. Belgians Zenderuva second. Really good dice for those 3rd, 4th and 5th places. Cody Hodgson, a hard-worked 3rd place. Kyle Ensby of Australia was 4th. Mika Laiho of Finland 5th. Matthias Detis dropped a couple of places late on to 6th. Konstantins Kalko of Latvia was 7th. Simon Wagner, long-time front-runner, was 8th. And I have to say, a little bit of sympathy for Kevin Ludi, who drove so well for a long time in 3rd place, eventually finishing 9th. It was Roy Bakker of the Netherlands who completed the top 10, and just outside the top 10 from the United States of America, it was Joey Wimsett. Nicholas Latifi, the Canadian who was running 2nd at one time, finishing a disappointing 16th place. Well, we'll give you the official result in just a moment. Oh, in fact, it's coming on screen now. Confirmation then. You see the maple leaf, the red and white flag. Ben Cooper of Canada wins it. Zenderuva of Belgium 2nd. Cody Hodgson, the Stars and Stripes of the USA, in 3rd place. Australia's Kyle Ensby 4th. Mika Laiho of Finland 5th. Matthias Detis making it 2 Belgians in the top 6. Konstantins Kalko of Latvia 7. Simon Wagner of Austria 8. Kevin Ludi of Switzerland 9. And Roy Bakker of Netherlands 10. Joey Wimsett making it 2 American drivers in the top 11, and the first of the Portuguese brothers, Eduardo Laiho, finished in 12th place. 13th was Andreas Backman of Sweden, the brother and sister team of Andreas and Jessica Backman. Jessica having qualified this morning, or last night, from the last chance race, and so both brother and sister still running. Jessica in juniors. Andreas Backman 13th, Zach Richard Robichon of Canada 14th, Luke Candel of South Africa 15th, Luke Candel of South Africa, Nick Latifi of Canada 16th, Jari Huttunen of Finland 17th, Harold Skokaklis of Latvia 18th, Kazimieras Vasilauskas of Lithuania 19th, and it was Jason Pringle of Australia who completed the top 20. Wow, a great DD2 pre-final. Congratulations to Ben Cooper. Good drives also by Zenderuva and Cody Hodgson.